So most Beatles fans have come to accept the US version of Magical Mystery Tour, which has a side's worth of previously unreleased tracks and then a B-side that strings together songs from previously released singles to make a full album. Then there is the UK release. The way the Beatles intended, no repeats of previous singles, aside from I Am the Walrus, but a measly double EP, a very strange format even for the time. What if there was a way to combine the best of both worlds? In this video, I attempt to fix the release of Magical Mystery Tour and even Yellow Submarine. Before this video, I'd just like to point out that all of this is theoretical, and I'm not saying it's better than what ultimately got released, so take what I'm saying lightly. This is all just for fun. Picture this, you're a Beatles fan and it's 1967. At the start of the year, you bought the now legendary double A-side single, Strawberry Fields Forever and Penny Lane. During that year, you also picked up the groundbreaking Sgt. Pepper's. And then in July, All You Need Is Love, backed by Baby You're a Rich Man. In November, you're just about to pick up I'm the Walrus, backed with Hello Goodbye. But in the US, Capitol released a new Beatles album called Magical Mystery Tour. You decide to wait on it as it contains 5 songs you've just bought earlier this year. In December, the UK version of Magical Mystery Tour is released. You find it slightly disappointing with it only containing 5 new tracks and it being the odd double EP, meaning you'd have to flip it over and change the record many times. Yeah, so this isn't really ideal. And then to top it off, at the start of 1969, after 1968 having solid releases, they put out a Yellow Submarine album with 2 more duplicate songs and an instrumental B-side, which, let's be real, you won't really listen to that often. Now, obviously, we can't go back in time and change the way these releases were put out, and most of us probably wouldn't want to, but I think I've come up with an interesting way to get all this content in a more cohesive package. So the goal of this is to make a new release order where there is no double EP and no repeat songs from singles or albums. I'm going to be taking the role of whoever would be in charge of releasing these albums. I'm also going to say that the UK and US would receive the same releases in this alternate universe, unless said otherwise. Let's take it from the release of All You Need Is Love onwards. So at this point in time you have Strawberry Fields Forever, Penny Lane, All You Need Is Love, and Baby You're a Rich Man. All these tracks end up being on the US version of Magical Mystery Tour and do not need to appear again, so we will not be using them again at any point in this video. The next thing I would do is not release the I'm the Walrus / Hello Goodbye single, as both of these songs end up appearing in the Magical Mystery Tour film and I think would work great on an album with the same name. Speaking of which, next up, I'll take the songs Magical Mystery Tour, The Fall on the Hill, Flying, Blue Jay Way, Hello Goodbye, Your Mother Should Know, and I'm the Walrus, and add them to the list of potential songs to make this new Magical Mystery Tour album, which I know isn't really much different from the UK release, aside from the addition of Hello Goodbye. So let's find some songs to make this album at least above the 30-minute mark, so we can actually consider it an album. For this I jumped to the material from what eventually ended up on the Yellow Submarine album. This album contains 4 unique Beatles songs that hadn't been released up until that point. Only a Northern Song, All Together Now, Hey Bulldog, and It's All Too Much. Now, I think it would be nice if we could put all of these songs into our new Magical Mystery Tour album, but there are a couple of problems with that. 1. In my opinion, All Together Now and Hey Bulldog don't quite match the psychedelic feel of the rest of the album so far. And 2, unlike the other songs that were finished in 1967, Hey Bulldog wasn't finished until the start of 1968. This would push back the Magical Mystery Tour film release by 3 months, and would mean the Beatles wouldn't have an album for the 67 Christmas season. Not ideal if you ask me. My proposed solution to this is to simply only bring Only a Northern Song and It's All Too Much over to the album, since it still makes it past 30 minutes without the other songs, clocking in at just over 32 minutes. I tried my best to have an interesting running order. According to this post on the Steve Hoffman music forums, most people seem to like the US track listing the best, especially liking Walrus as a closing song, so I tried to follow that logic. First 3 tracks follow the same order, with the song Magical Mystery Tour being the perfect opener. I decided, however, to close side 1 with It's All Too Much, since I felt its lengthiness and the way it builds felt right for a closer. Side 1 clocks in at 14 minutes and 48 seconds. Side 2 definitely took a little more work, since I didn't want to have any George or any McCartney songs just next to each other. In the end, I decided on this. I put Blue Jay Way as the opener. I know that goes against exactly what I just said about having songs by the same writer back to back, but since you're flipping the record it feels less intrusive, and I feel this song is such a great opener with the way it fades in. Next up, we have Hello Goodbye, another one of the new additions to this record. I then separated Your Mother Should Know with another George composition, Only a Northern Song, and then leaving the record to close with I'm the Walrus. side 2 clocks in at 17 minutes and 58 seconds. Okay, now that that is sorted, what about our 2 missing Yellow Submarine songs, All Together Now and Hey Bulldog? Well, my idea for these tracks is to have them as an almost promo single for when the film comes out, since there will no longer be an album release for it. I think Hey Bulldog is the obvious choice for the A-side. However, if it was released in the US, it would likely have All Together Now as the A-side, since that was featured in the US version of the film, whereas Hey Bulldog was not. Now the final question, what about the George Martin score? Well, I think that would end up getting a standalone 12-inch release around the release of the film. Perhaps it could even be a 45 RPM 12-inch, although I'm not sure how popular those were at the time. It probably wouldn't sell as well, but at least fans would have the option of buying it rather than it getting tacked onto the Yellow Submarine album. I'd like to hear your thoughts and different takes on this in the comments, because I know I probably missed something really obvious. Do you think that this is better or worse than what we got? Leave it below. Again, this is all just for fun and theoretical, so don't take it too seriously. Alright, bye, 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 bye. You say goodbye and I say hello.